Again. After another week of work, I thought I'd do a video or two because I've been quite inspired once again from the conversations I've been having with people and also some of the reading that I've continued to do. My last video, actually, I was quite pleased with because I'm kind of getting to the point now where I understand a little bit more about what I'm seeking. And I think a lot of people are seeking the same thing, and that is to feel a sense of peace. And I came up with the pillars of peace last time. These four pillars, inviting everybody to floss. So it was forgiveness, love, openness, and self worth. And whilst having the conversations with people this week, I've sort of tried to be consistent with that and use that quite a lot. And it has really, for me personally, really helped. Some of the reading I've been doing has been leading me in the same way as well. And I think, it's all very well saying, okay, forgive people for their problems, forgive yourself, love as much as you can, fill yourself up, be open and aware of everyone else, open to different and new ideas, and work on self-love. There is this overriding key to peace that has sort of come to me this week, which I wanted in this video to talk about. And that was the key of compassion. Now, I had a wonderful conversation with someone this week who was totally sort of interested in my path particularly, which was great, but also just give me the chance to have a discussion with a like-minded individual, but also discuss some opposing viewpoints. And I think that's probably where we've got to get to in order to unlock this compassion key, if you like. So we were looking at for me, and for what I'm trying to achieve here is I'm looking to follow my path. Okay, I think that's what I'm doing, and I'm not putting myself up in any kind of on any kind of pedestal. I'm not separating myself from anyone, and I'm certainly not pushing my point of view. And this is where the right and wrong aspect came from this week. And we were saying, well, okay, this is your opinion, and this is my opinion. And you've got to respect that just as much as anyone else. So, it's a view, it's a belief, it's their opinion, and that's absolutely fine. And in terms of compassion, also, I think what happens is that we have to look at the way I think humanity or life. People, the world, the global community, or lots of us anyway, are in this separation age where we are separated. So it starts very early in school, the house that you're in school, and it moves through to we've talked about this before, male, female, which football team you support, which job that you go for, which political party you may or may not follow, and which part of the world, in fact, or culture within which you reside. It's the separateness, this idea that we are in different boxes. And I think what that tends to produce is a polarized set of thinking, a dichotomy, if you like, a separateness. So north, south, east, west, black, white, tall, short, fat, thin, old, young. All of these subtle separations seem to cause a few problems. And I think we've got to basically get away from this polarized thinking and try and get into an area where we're not discussing right and wrong. We're actually transcending polarized thinking. So transcending the polarity of life, because that's the only way I think you can get into this compassion key and start unlocking ultimately what it is you're after, and that's peace. Now, compassion is quite a difficult one, I think, for a lot of people. And again, I've got so little sort of ideas around that. and how we can unlock that. Now, these are actually quite, can be quite difficult. And one in particular, there are three parts to it, three parts to compassion. And it was given to me on an audio book this week. And it was a very clear way of unlocking compassion. And, trying to emphasize this week myself. Now, when you look at something, you go, okay, let's say, I don't know, a particular war or a particular horrible event. I think what happens is that we look at the event and we say, "Isn't that terrible?" And I feel really sorry for the people who are involved in that, and we need to string up the ones who did it. Now, unfortunately, that doesn't unlock this compassion, this compassionate key. It was the way it was described to me. It's called the gift of the blessing. Now, people get strung out on these terms like God, blessing, call it what you will, but basically, this is the way it was described. The gift of the blessing intended when compassion is intended, where you're trying to live from a compassionate viewpoint, is three parts. So, for example, you basically are looking at the people, the victims of such, I don't know, an atrocity somewhere in the world, and you say, wow, those people have had a terrible thing put on them. They've had an earthquake, they've had an attack, there is a war going on, and you really feel that, you really feel for them. So in this particular analogy, you send a blessing to them. The next thing is probably the harder part, is we need to be blessing the people that are conducting these attacks. Now, that is really, really difficult. It's all very well saying, okay, these people are having terrible things bestowed upon them. The attackers or the cause, or the perpetrators, if you like, they also need to receive a blessing to get well, to get to a better part of their life, get to a more understanding point of view, a more balanced point of view, and that's really difficult. The third part is us as a witnesser. We are there watching this thing unfold. We feel for the victims, we're trying to bless the perpetrators, but also we are witnessing it. So there is a third part to this feeling of compassion. So without any one of those, it's going to be an incomplete key. So that really made a lot of sense to me. And it was difficult. It is a difficult thing to do. But then if you're trying to find peace, this is where I think you have to be. You have to look at things differently. You can't always buy into the idea that some people are good and some people are bad and some people are neutral. It's got to be a humanity picture. And I think that's something that we all have to work on. But I think what I've been doing now, as part of the floss analogy, I'm trying to be open. I'm trying to understand. You can look all over the world for all manner of problems. You can look right into your very community and see problems. But the one thing I think that we're not doing currently, and what we need to do more of, is stop the polarized thinking, transcend the polarities that we have within our communities, within our groups, within our families, try and understand where it's coming from and treat that. As I've said before, the work, I suppose, if you like, is there you are, there's the issue, and the gap between is where you can do the work. So I think it's more about trying to transcend, not making somebody right, somebody wrong. That's, in terms of some people might have issue with blessing someone who's just waged war against a particular village or created an atrocity somewhere. But ultimately, if you don't do that, then the healing is incomplete. And I think that's the message I got from this brilliant conversation this week with a gentleman who I was talking to about it. It's difficult. It's not something that you can do overnight, but I think it's a very, very worthwhile direction to go in. So transcend the polarity. Stop thinking in polarized terms. I think that's what is going to add to the separation in this world, and we need to be looking at hatred itself rather than hating the people who are going around bombing people. I think we need to work on hatred. So there we go. Enjoyed that again.